Welcome grade 10s to the discussion of the function straight lines just to draw. The first method you can use to draw the tables is then to use the table method. You can do it with your calculator or without. If you do it with your calculator, you can press the button mode. Then you can notice the table. So then you go to 7. Some of your calculators will say 4. Then you will say f of x. F of x means y. So your equation must be in the y form. Then you press 2. And to get your x into your calculator, you press then the alpha there. So it's then alpha. And then you press the x. So that's the x. Then you can say plus 1. So if you look at the screen of your calculator, you'll see f of x is equal to 2x plus 1. It's the same as that one there. So now you say then equal. And that means it's just another function. We're only going to draw one function. So you will say, where will we start? Remember then you've got place there in your tables for 3 values. The easiest values to choose because your x is your independent variable. So I can choose there -1, I can choose 0, and I can choose plus 1. So where will I start this table? I will say -1, and then I will press equal again. Where will I end? I end then with the number 1. If you can look there, number 1, and then I can say equal. Now they say in what amount did I count? So I count in ones, so that means I put the step 1 there and I put equal. There's your table. So that means then if my x is -1, my f of x, which is y, it's also -1. So I can fill in there -1. If I go down then 0, what does it state? 0 is giving you 1. So then you can fill in there a 1. If I go to 1, what is the value there? It's a 3. So then I can fill in there a 3. Now, after you've completed your table, right, you can go to your axes. So you do the coordinates now. So if you look at that one, x is -1 and the y is -1. So it means then your x is -1 and the y it's -1. So that means x and y, where they intersect, you get your point there. Then the next point there that you can see is then 0 and 1. So your x is 0, and then you go to 1. So that's your second dot there. Then the third dot is then x is 1 and y is 3. So x is 1 and you must go up to 3. So you make your dot there. So I've got your 3 dots, and now what you can do is you take your ruler and you join that line, and that means then that is your graph. Okay, so that's the first one. Put your arrows there and write y is equal to 2x plus 1. So you can use your calculator for that. If you don't understand that method, you can go then to using the calculator once again to do the following one. So instead of, remember your x is your independent variable, so you can choose any values there. So let's, for this one, we choose then -2, 0, and 2. Okay, preferably you choose then negative values, 0, and positive values. If you want to do it this way, you can say your equation is then 2. Instead of the x, you put your brackets. Then you substitute your first value, which is -2. You close the bracket and you carry on with the -2. And you press equals. So that means your y value, it's now -6. So now you substitute, then you write there negative 6. Now instead of re-entering everything, my next value is now 0. So you just go use your calculator and you just page back, go back, 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 and then you delete the negative 2 and you substitute now the 0. The rest will be the same. Press your equal and you get a y value of negative 2. So you substitute negative 2. Then the third value is then 2. So once again what you can do there is you go back on your calculator, you go back, 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 back into the bracket where the x is supposed to be, you delete that, you substitute then a 2, press the equal, and then you get a 2. Now you can plot those points. So the first one is then negative 2 and negative 6. So you go to your Cartesian plane. So it's negative 2. That's my negative 2. And I must go down to negative 6. So that's my first point. Then I've got 0, 0, negative 2, 0, negative 2. So that's my 0. And that's my negative 2. Last point there is then 2 and 2. So I've got 2 and I've got 2. Once again you've got your 3 dots there. So you take your ruler and you join those 3 dots. And that will be your linear graph or a straight line graph. And then you write your equation next to that. So that means y equals then 2x minus 2. So that is using your calculator. So you can also do it without your calculator. So again, once again, you can choose your values there. It's easier to choose the negative 1, 0 and 1. So now you can just do it. Substitute the negative 1 into there, so that means 2 times negative 1, so it's negative 2. 0 times the 2 will be 0, and the 1 substituted in there times the 2 will be 2. So that is your next equation. So let's plot the points. So it's got negative 1 and negative 2. So it's negative 1 and negative 2. So I'm just going to make a little cross there. The next one is then 0, 0. So that's the origin. And then I've got 1 and 2. So now you can just join those lines or those dots to form the line there. And you've got your third graph, linear graph. And write the equation next to the line. So that's y equals 2x. You can also do it the same with the other graphs. Right. Now they say write down the equation of the lines or the graphs which are parallel to each other. Now if you look there, parallel to each other, if you look at the number there, so that's your 2x and that's the 2x. So those lines will be parallel. So number 1 and 3. So if you look at your diagram or your sketches, can you see they've got the same slope? They're parallel to each other. Can you see this one as well? Those lines will be parallel to each other. So it will be number 1, number 2 and number 3. Those lines will be parallel to each other. If you look at the negative there in front, so if you're going to choose this one, negative 1, 0 and 1, if I substitute the negative into that, you multiply and you get a half. 0 times anything is 0, and that's giving you negative a half. What do you notice about that graph? So now we've got negative 1 and a half. -1 and a half will be there. If I look at the next one, 0, 0 is my origin, and I got 1 and a half. So now what do you notice about this graph? This graph is going down. So this is my graph looking like that. So that means y is equal to -1/2 x. So what do you notice there? If there's a negative coefficient in front of your x, your graph is going down. Okay, and that is called the gradient. You did that in grade 9. So what will happen to this graph here? You'll see it will be parallel to that one there. And this one will go up, so that will be parallel to that one. So those three graphs, 1, 2, 3 will be parallel, and 4, 5 and 6 will be parallel to each other. So you look at the coefficient of your x. Look at the coefficients of your x. If that's a negative, it will going down. If it's the same number, a half, and a half, the lines will be parallel. If you look at that one there, what is the coefficient of x? It's a 2 plus 2, so the graph will go up, plus 2, go up, plus 2, go up. So that means you've got the same gradient, so the lines will be parallel. Right, so how can you identify when the graphs will be parallel? The gradients will be equal. Remember we did that with analytical. Write down equations that will be perpendicular to each other. So if you look at that 1 and 3, 1 and 5, they will be perpendicular. Why will they be perpendicular? It's because if you take the gradients and you multiply them, you get -1, like we did in the analytical geometry. So this is your table method. The next page then is sketching using the dual intercept method. Now what is the dual intercept method? Dual intercept means there will be two values, and you've got the x-intercept. If you want to calculate the x-intercept, you substitute a y equal to 0. If you want the y-intercept, you can either take the c value of your standard form, or you can say you make x equal to 0. So if you look at the first equation, can you see the y on its own? So it means then that this is in standard form. So that means that is your c value there. So the x-intercept, what will you do with the x-intercept? You will substitute y equal to 0. So that's my y value. So that is 0. That stays the same. And now I must find the value of x using your methods for equations. So x is -2. Because that's in the y form, my y-intercept will be my c value. So that will be 6. And then you're going to go to the graph. So your x-intercept -2 and the y-intercept will be 6. Why will this graph go up? Because if you look at the equation, the gradient was positive. Okay, the same with number 2. This is now not into the y form. So I've got 2x plus 3y equals 6. So to calculate then the x-intercept, you make y equal to 0. So into the place of the y, you substitute a 0. Anything times 0 will be 0. So I've got 2x is equal to 6. Solve for x. We've got x-intercept 3. Y-intercept is not a constant now because it's not into the y form. So now you must substitute your x with a 0. So wherever the x will be, 2x, that will be 0 substituted. That will fall away because it's 0. So you've got 3y equals 6 divided by 3, so y is 2. These two are not coordinates. They are x-intercept, y-intercept. So to plot those points, so that means then x-intercept of 3 y-intercept of 2. Can you see it's a negative slope there? And so you can carry on with the rest of those sums then. Right, if I look at a special one, that is number 10. Look at number 10. It's y equals 3x. What do you notice about y equals 3x? Although it's in standard form, the c value will be 0. It means it will be passing through the origin. So if you do now your x-intercept, then you will make y equal to 0. So then you make y equal to 0. So if I make y equal to 0, then you get your x value. The x-intercept will be 0. So that means it's your origin. But if I do the y-intercept, I get the same point. So that's why then, to get another point, I usually substitute 1 into the equation. You can substitute any value, but you can substitute 1. So if I substitute 1 there, so 3 times the 1 is 3, so I've got another point there, so which is 1 and 3. So you only do that if this is only 1 point. Now to sketch that one there, so you will do the following. For number 10, you will say then 0, 0, and then you're using the other point, which is x is 1 and the y value is 3. So it's going up, positive gradient. So that's also a special equation. If you look at the following one, if you look at number 11, what do you notice about number 11? Number 11 is just y equals 3. You can't see an x there. So if it's y equals 3, it's just a horizontal line. So that means the line is only cutting the y-axis there. You use only one y value, so it forms a horizontal line. So how will you sketch that one there? So you will go to your graph and you'll see then y, where will y be equal to 3? So that's my y point. All the y values will be the same. Can you see that? So it's a horizontal line. So that's y equals 3. How do I know to do that? You only see the y value in your equation. If you go to number 2, number 2 is now only x is equal to negative 2. Now if you look at your x, negative 2, that will be a vertical line. So if your equation, it's x equals to the number, it forms a vertical line. How will you draw that? So let's have a look at number 12. So that means then where's my x equal to negative 2? That's my point. You only got that value there, so it's that. So I'll put the memo on for the rest of this exercise.